All right, hey everybody, TG here. It is April 6th. Hope everybody's having a good Wednesday. We've got some new schedules, so we got a lot of rooms out there that I'm broadcasting into. So we're gonna do this and see how this works out and everything pans out. I think everything's been working out. We tested it earlier in the week, so hopefully thumbs up. And I know we've got our simpler trading administrators in the rooms checking everything out, so they can tell me how everything's working on the back end once we get finished with this. So also to those of you on YouTube and Facebook, this is a typical Wednesday thing. That's no change for you guys. And if anybody out there not familiar with me, come over here to profitpilot.com and check out more about me. One other thing that we are doing differently, in case you guys haven't noticed, we're going to be incorporating more video newsletters, which I think is pretty cool because a written newsletter is always a little bit challenging for a visual platform. Stock trading for me is highly visual, and it's always been challenging to really express the things that I want to express in words and try to point things out through screenshots. And now we can do some videos. So we've got that. We've done a couple. If you guys want to go check that out and then start, seeing them, I put them out twice a week. Try to put out some decent information and see if we go from there. All right, so let's go dive into the markets. And what I'll be looking at is I'm looking at Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Anybody who wants to put any comments in there, feel free to. That way we can kind of see where we're going to be going for the day. I'm also looking at the training room, which I believe next week we're going to be opening that up too. And that's going to be the simpler free trading room. So we can do that one as well. Now, I've been waiting for this moment for a few weeks, actually. Back in the day, right around here, these lows, I wrote a newsletter and said, I think the short side is too obvious. I have a feeling that everybody's stacked on one side and we're going to pop the other direction. Sure enough, we did. Now, this move went much further than I expected it. But once we started seeing that this move was topped out, I started to put on some shorts and we started actually loading up on the short side and taking positions and individual names and basically just guiding everybody, all my subscribers, into this move that's happening today. So this is perfect. We're happy as a clam right now today. I've seen a couple subscribers in the Moxie room say, "Yeah, this is working out pretty well." So I'm always happy to hear those comments. I like knowing that what I'm trying to do out there and guide you guys is actually working out and that you're taking advantage of it. So we'll be looking at some of the bigger fang names too, because they are all kind of moving the same way at the same time. They're all relative, but they're doing kind of the same stuff. So mostly what I've been talking about is the fact that over here on the S&P, price has been over the daily 50, but notice that the Moxie indicator has been below zero. This is the whole purpose of the Moxie indicator. This is some really good stuff, very strong. What this is, it's an inverse trampling move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. So even though price kept pushing up for a few days, I think it was like one of the longest streaks. If you guys want to go back and look at some quant studies, I forgot the exact something, but this was one of the longest, I think it was 11 or 12-day streak since I don't even know when. It's been a long time since something like this happened. And that's what you get in bear markets. It's a bear market rally. I personally don't think that the market is fixed. So I'm not really looking at this to be too bullish. I put out a market update last week, I believe. So if any of the administrators want to post a link to that, it's on our YouTube page. But I kind of laid out a couple bullish and bearish patterns or paths for how things are going to go. But what I've always been saying is that we needed to have a pullback first into the daily 50 before we could consider the next move up, if there's going to be a next move up. So that is what we've been looking at pretty much ever since we hit the daily third ATR and price jumped up off that. And then, it was one of those like sell the news type things, because that was where news about Russia, Ukraine, peace talks were kind of moving forward. So we had that. So again, sell the news kind of situation. And then we started to get, price break down, move up, and then break down even more. And what I was telling my subscribers specifically on 2 days ago was right in through here on the 15-minute time frame. Notice the Moxie indicators. They are not strong. When the two indicators are spread from each other, it means they don't agree with each other. It's like two kids fighting in the back of the car that the parents have to separate. They're not happy with each other. So what that means is that this up move was not a legitimate or strong up move as the Moxie indicator was trying to communicate to us. I mean, One of them was barely over zero, the other one was below zero, and they're spread. They're thinking two different things. And so I said, yeah, don't mind this move up. That's nothing. We're gonna wait until price starts to roll over. And sure enough, it did yesterday. The internals yesterday were really rough, and 90% of my watch list, like I just have a general watch list, 90% of the names were in the red yesterday. And I thought, well, this is probably it. So that was all the stuff that I was communicating to the Moxie subscribers and saying, yeah, I think we're going to be looking, just fine in the next coming days. And so that's been working out. Now, as far as today's path, I'm going to show a couple tickers that I think might give us an idea of where else we can go. But I'm still basically targeting the hourly 200 and the daily 50. I don't think this is over. The only caveat to that is we could maybe get a little bit of bounce or a flag like that before rolling over. It may not just go straight down. Stock market never goes straight down. So I'm not necessarily expecting that tomorrow we're going to be right here. It could definitely happen. We do have some FOMC minutes coming out later today, but I also just wouldn't be surprised if we kind of see maybe a little bit of a reprieve from the down selling pressure, and then we go down like that. That's another path, and it would be great if it happened by Friday, just because that would make put a nice little bow on our positions and what we're doing. Now, if we look at the Nasdaq, I've been targeting the 50 also because of the 50, 200, 50 maneuver. So that has worked out like an absolute charm. Amazon is doing the same thing. So I've been saying, hey, Amazon and NASDAQ, they're doing the same pattern. That's giving me a lot of conviction that the market is going to do what I want it to do. And this last bounce up here on the 15-minute time frame, same thing on the 15-minute Moxies. They were not strong. They were telling me, don't trust this bounce. It's really just a bounce. It's not a rally or anything. Don't trust it. And sure enough, it rolled over. And today, as I said, happy as a clam on this kind of position. Now, if we go and we look at, say, Tesla, some of the bigger names, it's like trying to go long at the 11th inning. This thing was, I know they're talk about another price stock split, so that's been goosing it, but it's like, geez, this thing's way up there. I'm looking for Amazon, NASDAQ, Apple, like all these names to pull back. And I just thought that it was unlikely for Tesla to really kind of keep pushing further like that. We could see that Tesla was coming into a previous high. It was already outside of its daily third ATR. I mean, it was just so overbought that it was getting really risky to go to the long side. And so that's what I've been looking at. And you could see that it had crossed over the daily 50, but look where price is in relation to the daily 50. At some point, I feel like it's going to have to come back down and test that, or at least get close to it. And we can kind of basically see the same thing on the 15-minute time frame. And so this is what I was doing. I was trying to put all the little bits and pieces together and say, yeah, I think everything's starting to line up and starting to look pretty similar. If you look at Apple, same deal. I was messaging to the Moxie subscribers. I said, look, this is probably going to be the top of Apple. Do what you want to do with that information. If you want to sell some calls or call verticals or take some puts or whatever. But I said, I bet that's going to be the top. You've come up into here on Apple, coming into the previous high. Do we really think Apple right now is going to go make new highs when the rest of the market isn't? It's going to be just natural resistance. And so that was what I was figuring. And we could see price was at the third ATR, and we could see that price was jumping off the EMA too. And then look at this, the Moxie indicator was still below zero despite price being over the 50. So all these things were telling me, based on the Moxie rules, that we were likely to pull back at some point. It's just kind of a matter of when. So we started to see that break. We saw now a little bit of a double bottom or double top near term, and you could see again the 15-minute Moxie indicator was not strong. In fact, it was stronger to the downside than to the upside for what we were seeing on that. All right, then let's see, we got Apple and then Tesla, Amazon. I think we talked about Amazon looking the same exact way as the NASDAQ, 50, 200, 50, right through there. So I do think that there's going to be a little bit more on the bone to the downside because the pattern's just not complete. And then let me show you a couple things of why I'm thinking that. If we look at the SOXX, yeah, Austin. So yeah, SMH, SOXX doesn't look good on any time frame. That's pretty much true. And you can see here, I've just been adding some trend lines to see if any of them work. But you can see here that price got up over the 50. Look how far down the Moxie indicator was below zero. This should be telling us that while price can continue to push up over the 50, eventually it's going to break, and you shouldn't trust this because it's not the next swing trade. Like, it's not the next setup on the daily chart. The daily chart is just not ready. And that's exactly what happened. And so you could see here that SMH made it all the way back down to the hourly 200. It made it down to below the daily 50. This is part of why I think that the S&P, the Nasdaq, Amazon, Apple maybe can all make it back down to the hourly 200 slash the daily 50. So we saw that break down like that. And then the transports. Now, here's some thought. The transports are getting pummeled. Have you guys been looking at some of the shipping stocks and the trucking stops or stocks? So they've been getting just nailed. And I've been talking to a couple traders trying to figure out, what do we think about this and what's the reason? Part of it might be the high oil, high energy costs. So fuel is expensive. It's cutting into their margins. So, their numbers, their performance is not necessarily going to be the same, which is why that maybe their stocks are going down because they're not going to be as lucrative anymore. That's one way to think about it. Another trader friend of mine was saying, well, the more pessimistic way of looking at this is what if it's a way that we can see that consumer demand is going down? And I thought, oh, that actually makes some sense too. That the shipping stocks are actually demonstrating that, and you just remember that for as much as we see the stocks doing whatever they're doing, there are big firms, hedge funds, corporations that put a lot of time and effort researching this stuff and figuring out what is going on inside of these companies and what the numbers are. And so they might be seeing that consumer demand is going down. So shipping and trucking could be going down in the near future. And this is due to inflation, interest rates, and cost of goods and all that kind of stuff. Hang on one second. Gotta let the dog out sometimes. All right, so that is one thought about the transports and why the shipping is getting hit like this. But if we look at just from a technical standpoint, this was all written on the walls. Like this was all here. The same patterns, the same stuff that I talk about Nasdaq, Apple, Amazon. Look at this. Got over the 50, got rejected by the 200, and then just plowed right back down through the 50. So for those of you, the Moxie traders, we all know this. We know this pattern right in through here. If you guys aren't part of it, then that's what you can be looking for. And you can see here that the Moxie indicator was also below zero. So even though price was up over here over the daily, the Moxie indicator was saying, I wouldn't trust it. Don't believe that. And you can see right here was when it finally confirmed that it was going to go down. It finally got underneath the 15-minute 50. The Moxie indicator was super red, very nice and tight. And then you can see it continued to the downside as price continued to run into the underside of the 15-minute 50. So there's something for that. And then even Bitcoin, I was talking to one of my friends. He's very bullish on Bitcoin. I'm like, yeah, okay, you got to move here. I think he was kind of loading up on Bitcoin here, and it moved. I said, great, but it's not actually confirmed. This is not actually the real move. And I said, watch for a pullback. And he said, okay. So we kind of have a friendly bet going on between he and I. And so I'm looking at this and double top, starting to see some negative divergence. You can see here the Moxie indicators again, not strong. One of them's above zero, one of them's below zero. It means they don't agree with each other. They're not strong. And you can see here that price was starting to cut through the 15-minute 50. It looked like it wanted to go up, but the Moxie indicator was telling you otherwise. And even if we look at the daily chart, what's the pattern that's going on there? We've crossed over the 50. We've run into some resistance, and now I want to see if price actually comes back down to the 50. Now, that will be a question. If price comes back down to the 50, along with the Nasdaq and the S&P and all that kind of stuff, is it going to hold? And I don't know yet. I've laid out a couple paths for if it does hold or if it doesn't hold, and we're going to have to just wait and see. So once it gets there, I'm going to be cleaning out the decks and starting over because I just don't know if things are going to be going up or down from that point, and there actually might be some chop as we get through that. So RIOT was a good. I mean, look at this RIOT, perfect. I mean, absolutely perfect as far as these kind of moves and these patterns that I've been communicating to everybody. And you can see here, cross over the 50, run into resistance, back down to the 50, right? So this is why I'm saying Amazon, NASDAQ, S&P, some other things that we're trading. I'm expecting them to come back down to the daily 50 and also about the hourly 200. And you can see RIOT continue to run into the underside of a downtrending 15-minute 50. Notice that the Moxie indicators were not strong. Even on a move up or a bounce or something like that, pretty much both indicators were below zero. They are very spread from each other, which meant they don't agree with any upward movement right there. And basically, this thing is going to keep going down. The stronger sentiment was right here. Look how nice and tight those 15-minute Moxie indicators are. They look like one line. They are super red and they're going down. That's what the kind of stuff you want to look for, whether it's red or green, down or up. You want to see the Moxie indicator look like one line in order to tell you that the conviction is that direction. So we've been seeing some stuff finally start to pan out. Now what we need to do is wait and see. There's no guarantee, but we need to wait and see if RIOT or some of the other um, crypto miners or crypto in general are going to actually find support around here. Now we can even take a look at Ethereum. I think it was doing the same thing. Yeah, look, Ethereum doing the same thing as Bitcoin generally. You could see the 15-minute looked almost identical, same kind of thing. It fell through the hourly 50, it crossed over the 50, ran into resistance, and now it's heading back down to there. So these are why I'm kind of pointing out what I'm pointing out. This is why I think that there's still more downside to the market, because I don't think that these major index related type things, the ones that are leading the way, I don't think that they're done yet. I think there's still a little bit more downside, and then we'll just have to wait and see after that. Yeah, Patrick, that's basically what I've been trying to lay out is what do we think about the Nasdaq next week. I'm not going that far. Right now I'm looking at the Nasdaq going down to the daily 50, and then we'll have to reassess. I'm gonna have to look at the indicators in the lower time frames and try and get that figured out. So Venus, I see you're talking about that. Everything is falling, even Bitcoin. Yeah, that's right. But gold steady still. So let's take a look at gold. Do I think it could be a really safe place in the future? Yes, I do. Generally speaking, I do think get this there. I do think gold miners, commodities in general, I do think that they are going to be strong. In fact, we're in natural gas, and I think we're up 30%. So that's been a good move. Natural gas is doing well. Oil will probably continue to move up, but it's got to take a breather. Gold. I've been talking about gold ever since it hit this double top and just got super, super overbought. It's just too high. Like it was, this is how the market works. It got too overbought, too excessive, and now it needs to kind of just come down and find equilibrium. Now, where is that equilibrium? Well, in one sense, I wouldn't be surprised if the daily 50 is it. Now, it could go below the daily 50 and still be considered bullish because the Moxie indicator is still very much above zero. And the Moxie indicator on the weekly chart, it needs to get over zero. It's a little delayed. So this is why I think that this was just the first move, and I wasn't surprised that price pulled back, and now it's just hanging out. And if we look at the hourly chart still has not quite set up. In fact, do you see that there was an inverse trampoline move here on the hourly chart right back there? That is how I did not get suckered into a position on gold too soon, at least on this pullback. I didn't get suckered into something like that because the Moxie indicator was still below zero. It was saying, no, it's not ready yet. And we can see that price still has not gotten over the hourly 50. It's not in an uptrend yet on that time frame. And the Moxie indicator still, it's still below zero. It's working on it, but it's still below zero. So yes, I do think it's bullish. Yes, I think it will continue up in the future. I'm just trying to figure out when that's going to be. And until I can figure that out, then I'm just hanging out. And if we look at GDX as the gold miners, this is another thing that's kind of giving me timing and making me hesitate as far as getting in on the miners or on gold itself. Because look at this. This has all been an inverse trampoline move as well. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. And that's been working out pretty well. I understand that GDX is kind of, creeping up to the upside, but it hasn't really gone anywhere. And I am not trusting this up move when I see the Moxie indicator doing what it's doing. And I'll show you another ticker real soon about that. So this kind of wedging feels a little bit weird. And I'm just wondering if there's starting to become too big of a gap between price and the daily 50. I don't know if gold GDX is going to fall that far, but I'm just not quite ready to do anything about GDX up here at this high, especially since the Moxie indicator on the hourly chart is below zero. So let me show you Bloom Energy. You guys see what I'm pointing out here on the hourly chart? So notice we've had price moving up. That's great. The Moxie indicator is starting to move down, but it still had a lot of gas in the tank because there's still a lot of, distance above zero. But then we kind of get into this section, and you see here how price kept trying to move up, up, up. But notice how the Moxie indicator basically started going sideways near zero, looking very choppy, up, down, red, green, not strong. And so I continue to look at this and say, even though price kept wedging up, notice how the Moxie indicator was not going anywhere and started trending down. It looks a lot like that GDX situation. And you can see that even though price kind of bumped up over here. Now look where it is. And that's the Moxie indicator trying to give you a heads up and trying to communicate to you and say, in here is not really the best place to start initiating a long position because the Moxie indicator is communicating to you. All right. So that's what I'm seeing about GDX. And honestly, the best thing I could see for Bloom Energy is if it could get a little bit closer to the daily 50. If it could do that, I'd be happy. And then I'd be looking for a long side on something like this. But I think I see a lot of things out there that are starting to really, form something common. And I'm just seeing that I think the upside is done for now. And so I'd really be careful on the upside for a lot of things. There are definitely bullish things, like as I said, natural gas and some other tickers, but just not right now. We need to wait for just the right setups. All right, so Don, so yeah, Costco and Walmart, another trader and subscriber actually, and I were talking about this today, and we're both a little bit perplexed. We're like, oh, why is Costco still being bullish, and why is Walmart being bullish? Bullish, and we kind of thought about it. And it's like, huh, well, what is known about Walmart and Costco? They're the most affordable places you can go shop, right? That's their whole thing. Walmart, we know whether it's good or bad because of their business practices, they have low prices, right? Costco, maybe a little bit better reputation, but because you buy in bulk and they have a good reputation, they're supposed to be the most cost-effective place to go shopping. And where do we think people are going to go shopping more when things start getting expensive and inflation goes up? Probably these places, right? Maybe they're not going to go shop at the local QFC or the Safeway or the Fry's. Maybe they're going to switch over to Walmart. Maybe they're going to start buying a little bit more bulk Costco. So just from that kind of theory, and it's just me making things up, but that's kind of a thought that might be why they're succeeding, is because the cost of things are going up. So places that are normally cheapest or the most affordable are probably going to do well in an environment like this. So that's one thought for that. Yeah, latte. Thanks. Nice. Yeah, smash the like button. All right. So what's my general sentiment of the market rallying back after the FOMC? Well, if we're talking about today, then we'll have to see, and I covered that in the first part of this session, that if the market does bounce a little bit, I'm still looking for daily 50. So let me just show you a little bit of a thought that if for whatever reason we get a little bit of a rally today, like let's say today FOMC, if we get a little bit of a rally like this, I'm still going to picture like that. I think we maybe go up like this and then we go down. I'm still targeting daily 50. All right. I'm not going to budge from that. I think the daily 50 is what's going to happen. It could even go lower. Let me show you a recent trade that we took and then profited from for exactly that reason. Here's MRVI. And what we did is we took a short right here. Now, it did come down to the daily 21, bounced a little bit. So it is possible that the market, the S&P, could do that. I don't think it's going to go as high because it's already pretty high and rolling over. But you can see that even after a little bit of bounce, it came right back to the daily 50. So that is why I'm targeting the daily 50 is for this reason. Okay. So we'll just have to see if that kind of works out and in what order it's going to work out. Mr. Murph, we covered Apple already, and then let's see UVXY. Let me get over to a different time frame so we can see this a little bit better. Pretty good day today, and the question I mostly have is, running into the 21 EMA right here, is that going to be it, or is it going to push up just a little bit and then pull back? I'm kind of looking for a little bit more of a push up. So if we can get up just a little bit over here, I'll take off my UVXY trade, and then we should see it kind of come back down like this. And then I'm going to be pretty curious to see what happens next. Is it going to go higher or is it going to go lower from there? What I don't think is going to happen is I'm not sure that it's going to kind of come down from here and then do something. I think we're going to maybe come down just a little bit and then higher, and then we'll have to decide. So again, that kind of fits into the whole thesis that I have about the S&P getting to the daily 50 and the Nasdaq getting to the daily 50. So, don't worry about too much noise kind of happening in the middle. I think that's my expectation of where it's going to go. Oh, Don, let's see. GOGO. Yeah, I've been watching GOGO a little bit. This is on my do not trade list, honestly. I am amazed that GOGO is doing whatever it's doing. I kind of thought that the travel stocks are still having a hard time. So GOGO is the entertainment company for travel, for airlines and stuff. So I don't get this. You know, I thought maybe this was a short squeeze, but then to see what looks like a high volume jump up like this, like, okay. I mean, it's done a pretty good job. You know, it had earnings, and then after earnings from its jump up, it flagged directly into the hourly 15 and just kept moving straight up. Like that did a pretty good job. So I don't know, not my deal. I wouldn't be buying it here. If anything, I would be saying thank you and just getting out. It is way, way, way overbought and way outside of that third ATR. So I'm not sure I'd short it either at this point, but if I were in it and made money from this, I'd say thanks and just I'd hop out. You know, I think this is a surprise. So I have no idea. We were trying to trade GOGO long, like way back here, and only now is it finally starting to move out. So yeah, I have no idea what's going on with this thing. Profit bringer. So yeah, Tesla, Google. I already covered Tesla, but my point is that they are all doing the same thing. You can see here Google, same deal, down to the daily 50. So cross over the 50, Moxie indicator still below zero, meaning price should not be over the 50, and now it's pulling back to the 50. So this is everything I've been communicating to the subscribers and training room and anything else that we could do. This is what I've been looking for. I think that there's just going to be a little bit more. I think there's a little bit more downside. There might be a bounce first, but I think that there's a little bit more downside. So do be careful about that. We've got some we got the FOMC minutes today, and we'll kind of see what happens after that. So, for anybody, if you guys ask questions that I already answered, just go ahead and watch the replay. And then remember, if I can click the right one, there we go. I'm putting in video newsletters now. So if you guys are interested in that, come check it out. And then if you come over to services, that's where we do the Moxie trading room. Oh yeah, here's the market update that I did, and then a bunch of classes that I put out. So if you guys are interested in that, we got lots of stuff for you. Answer any of your questions, and we'll see you in the training room. All right, guys. Thanks again. Talk to you later.